So I'm a lifelong resident of the state of Connecticut. My family actually goes back 4 generations. My father's family came over from Ireland during the potato famine, and my mother's side of the family is also Irish, came a little bit later. My journey to Congress didn't start at that early of an age. I practiced law for 27 years in small-town practice in eastern Connecticut, served in the Connecticut General Assembly for 4 terms. It took me 2 tries to get elected to Congress. I ran and lost in 2002, and I ran and won in 2006. My margin was 83 votes out of 241,000 cast. My nickname when I went to Congress was Landslide Joe. Looking at the economic pillars of the 2nd Congressional District, the shipbuilding industry, which goes back over 100 years, sometimes has been the largest employer in the state of Connecticut. The submarine shipyard has only one customer, and that's the U.S. Navy, which is funded by the U.S. Congress. The success of the yard financially, in terms of its employment levels, its ability to build out facility, depends on strong advocacy. If you look at the Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 13 states it very clearly: Congress shall provide and maintain a Navy. After I got elected by that squeaker margin, I immediately sought a position on the House Armed Services Committee and the subcommittee that deals with Navy and Marine Corps issues, the Sea Power Subcommittee. During my first term, Electric Boat actually was in a pretty critical juncture, limping along at 1 sub per year in the Virginia-class program. The Virginia-class program really was already supposed to be double that rate. The employment levels were just a steady trajectory downward. Roughly about 6,000 or 7,000 people in Groton, Connecticut, which is sort of the main hub for Electric Boat, and a declining number over at Quonset Point, Rhode Island. As a freshman, we were actually successful in that first year getting funding for advanced procurement for a 2nd submarine. It takes 60 to 65 months to build one of these submarines, and that's what really sort of jump-started the production level that hit in 2011. The employment levels between Groton and Quonset Point is now 19,500 workers. It's really been an amazing story. The right decisions were made back then to boost production, because as we're in the environment we are today, with near competitors like Russia and China who are definitely building up their navies at a fast clip, there's just no question that the submarine fleet is the most effective deterrent in terms of protecting our maritime interests. But it's a constant battle, because Congress is a competitive place. You've really got to make sure that a program like this really stays steady and stays healthy in terms of the funding levels. When I first came in, there was absolutely no design work being funded for a follow-on design for another part of the submarine fleet in the U.S. Navy, which is our ballistic submarines. Those are the submarines that actually handle the nuclear warhead missiles. These are massive submarines. The ballistic submarines are 2.5 times the size of Virginia submarines. And by 2007, 2008, it was really clear that the Ohio-class submarines, which have been on patrol for decades, and for decades more, their hull life is going to give out. I worked with Senator Joe Lieberman to get some advanced funding for design work for the Columbia program, and the Navy embraced that, and it has become now really a much stronger program in terms of support, because the strategic force, which has the nuclear warheads in our military, had to kind of merge in terms of retirement and launch really at the same time. That's been happening now concurrently with the Virginia construction. It's one of the big reasons why the employment level is now so dramatically higher, which cut Virginia. We've worked really hard to address getting a lot more support for career and technical schools, high school levels that teach welding, how to be an electrician, how to do sheet metal. The exciting thing is they're getting hired on the spot for really good paying careers. And at the same time, we've also been looking at adjusting the job training program. So pre-apprenticeship programs for people who are a little bit older, programs, they're very intense and accelerated. From that point, you sort of daisy chain into full apprenticeship programs. for the next 10 years or so, as the Columbia program hits full stride of production and that we keep the Virginia program on target, it really is about building out the industrial base. Now we're talking about creating strategic supply chain of much larger components, which is a good thing. This is not taking work away from my district or my part of Connecticut. I think now there really is bipartisan belief that submarine construction is really a very high, if not the highest priority in terms of what our Navy needs and what our country needs. If we're really going to succeed at the pace we want to achieve, then we really have to go out to other parts of the country. And honestly, there's not a lot of members of Congress that can really connect the dots that tangibly from what they do to something that really is in 3 dimensions and bricks and mortar in your district. To have this avenue created where a job that really gives them the ability to support themselves and their family and all the dignity that comes with that, that to me actually is in some ways the most rewarding experience. In 2022, obviously, I lost my gavel as chairman of the Sea Power Subcommittee. There's a new chair that was selected to take over, Trent Kelly from the state of Mississippi, who's a Republican member. We've worked on the Sea Power Subcommittee, which he sat on as a member prior to taking over as chair. I'm very bullish on the fact that we are going to continue to work together and really do good things. This award means everything to me. When I came to Congress, I replaced a member who actually sat on the House Armed Services Committee, and frankly, there was some concern about whether or not I was ready to sort of take on this task. But I always felt that I was definitely capable of succeeding in this area. To me, that is why working with the society and so many other folks who are passionate about a strong Navy and recognizing the importance of a maritime priority for our country, we are a maritime country, is really the key to good legislating, which is that you've got to build alliances. You got to work with people on the other side of the aisle. You got to work with people outside of Congress to make the case and succeed. I view this award as a real validation of not just what I did, but what we all did together.